Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Samp&Chance. I'm your host, Bobby Sampson, joined with my man, Mr. Chance Michael, and right below us, we have the one and only Kat Von Heez, one of the premier lady wrestling performers that we have in the country today. Guys, her story is amazing. You do not want to miss this, so sit back, strap in, and most importantly, thank you for letting us into your ears. Samp&Chance out. Hey everybody, welcome back to welcome back to a very special episode of Samp&Chance. I'm your host, Bobby Sampson. Unfortunately, Chance was busy, kind of day-long weekend, family, what are you gonna do? But you know what? I'm here, and guess who I got with me? I got one of the premier ladies in Canadian professional wrestling today. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our guest today, Kat Von Heez. Kat, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic, Kat. First off, thank you for reaching out. And I took a shot in the dark and just posted something, and you came, and thank you so much. And I really feel privileged and honored to have you on the show as a female competitor. And it's going to be really cool to kind of pick your brain about the female side of things. We always
Mhm.
hear about the guys, we always hear about what's happening on that side, and I'll say this much. I don't know if you caught it last night. Money in the Bank, the girls were amazing. I mean, what they're putting their bodies through these days compared to, oh my God, 15 years ago. I mean, we don't even have to go that far back.
No,
Your
it's
your your thoughts on where the
I
women
didn't
are.
get to watch it. I'm gonna watch it hopefully either today or tomorrow. But yeah, like I mean, I saw clips and stuff, and it's like I was just like, oh, like you. And not that I've taken I've taken. I should say I have taken bumps similar to some of those, but I mean, just watching it, you can kind of go, oh, like that. I remember that time that I felt like that. I can only imagine what this feels like, and it's just yeah, the evolution is crazy. I remember my first time at the CACs, I ran into a lady from back in the day. Her name was Beverly Shade, and she watched my match at the CACs. And she like came up to me, she patted me on the shoulder, like, "Honey, back in my day, we would have done nothing that you guys did in there today," you know. And it's just into perspective because we really didn't. None of us really had worked together. There was like, I believe, 10 of us in the match, so we didn't have a lot of time, and we
Mhm.
really all just did one move each.
Right.
And it was all fairly basic stuff like head scissors and just a suplex and nothing, literally nothing crazy. So when someone comes up to you from that era and says, "Hey, like what you guys did in there was nuts," you're like, "Oh wow, like that's peanuts now." And then you watch what the girls in like WrestleMania like or pay-per-views are doing, and like they're really breaking some barriers for women's wrestling, and it
Well,
hurts a lot.
yeah. No, I can only imagine. Just to kind of, add to that a little bit, I was watching it with my little girl yesterday, and she's a big wrestling fan, thank God. Um, I don't have much to kind of mold her with. I have wrestling, boxing. She's got her mother's music, her looks, and everything else. So God bless for that. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But she was asking me last night when she was watching, like, "Oh, does this hurt?" And I'm like, you know what? These do hurt. Hey, everybody, we are joined by Chance. Michael's joined. Chance, thanks for joining us. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good, man.
Pretty good, man. We just kind of got started here, so we're just flowing with the show here. We are just talking about the women's evolution in a way, and we're just kind of get into it here now. So, Kat, right off the bat, like I said, I've been researching you, and I've been talking, like watching some of your matches and stuff, and your entry into the business is very interesting. It was kind of a challenge for you, to your path to wrestling. Would you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I mean, like when it comes to just getting into like any sort of combat sport to start, like actually talked about this with someone at work today. A lot of kids want the opportunity to be active. Their parents really don't, like my parents are not athletes.
Mhm.
And so again, really don't have that emphasis around making sure that your kid is going into sports, or some parents can't afford to put their kids into sports. So in high school, like I would try out for all these teams, or even in junior high, and I would never make the cut. And the teachers really never like they're like better luck next year, kid. Like there was never any opportunity to be active, and I kept trying, and you're just doing gym class. And then in grade 10, I believe it was an out of school program that had come to the school, so it was after hours, and I was like, oh cool, like a wrestling poster. That's a big girl sport, I can do that. And I went there, and you feel a little out of place because there was a lot of people that had already been doing it,
Mhm.
but he didn't kind of shun me. And it was like I came in, I worked my butt off, I failed at things, but I came back the next time, and again he just let me come in and train. And but anytime I did something that was unexpected for a girl my size, he was like, oh, that's really cool, like look what she can do. And I was too heavy for a weight class. And so this is usually where, again, I felt in the past other coaches and other teachers or supervisors would be like, listen, like you can't compete yet. But come back next year, and they would kind of just like give up on you.
Mhm.
And he was like, hey, I talked to the board. This is what they want from you. If you can do that before the next competition, so you have 2 weeks, they'll let you compete. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you need to do. And I'm giving you the tools to do that. It's all up to you now. So if you don't want to do it, it's balls in your court.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not to say that that wasn't challenging. I had to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
You lost 22.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, flip side, I mean, and we all know, I feel like a lot of people know through like combat sports, especially like amateur wrestling and MMA, there's a lot of weight cutting. So it can encourage like eating disorders, which in my case, it definitely did.
Right.
Because I was like the first time I'd ever lost weight, especially to that magnitude, and I was feeling really good about it.
Mhm.
But yeah, like that's when like I started competing and realizing like, wow, like if given the right tools, like I can do this. Like this is something I can do. And I already watched wrestling growing up with my babysitter, and I always looked up to China and like other girls. But that was when I started feeling like more like I could do this. But then finding schools was really challenging.
Right.
So I looked around. Obviously, there's Landstorm School came up, and a couple in Ontario had come up. But I'm still young, still trying to figure out. Like my parents are definitely not going to be supportive of me going to another like province.
Mhm.
So I joined up with a local company by the name of CWE, and I kept trying to get my foot in the door there. Like no luck, no luck, no luck. And eventually, Wavell Star was running a show out in Saskatchewan, and he needed girls. He reached out to Danny Duggan, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, like, do you want an opportunity to be on a show?" And like at this point, I'm like, all I have is my amateur wrestling background. Like I don't have any formal training, but I knew like if I said no, this might be the opportunity where like I like pass it up.
Mhm.
So I go, and I end up being like main event on that show in a tag match. And things went really well. And then when CWE opened a school, I trained under Mentalo, and a couple of the other guys locally helped out, but it was mainly Mentalo. And there was Tyler Colton was training there at the time, and a couple of other guys. But yeah, so after that, I mean, it was like just trying to make the connections and move around as much as you could. And again, moving out to Alberta with where I was offered the chance to train with MPW, and it was the CNWA at the time with Vance Nevada. Like Vance Nevada found me in Winnipeg, and really gave me the opportunity to come out here and grow my network, and taught me a lot about the inner workings of the business. So I credit him for a lot of like my success and how many matches I've had, and like the network I've built myself.
Big shout out to Vance, Nevada. I mean, Chance, I mean, the man's helped us
Friend of
tremendously.
the show, great guy, great
Yeah,
author, great worker, everything.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Super good guy.
This
One of the very good guys in the business.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
absolutely true Renaissance man, that Vance,
Yep.
Nevada.
Yes. Yes.
But Kat, here's something I like to take a couple steps back here because we talked about it. You lost 22 pounds. We got to let the people know you went into that competition and won the silver medal,
Yeah. 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 I did that
right?
competition, won the
So we
silver,
can't,
and
I don't want anyone to forget that hard work pays off, guys. It may not be exactly what you want, but here's an example. You persevered and you challenged yourself and you won.
yeah.
So, that's beautiful. But yeah, so you were trained. I have a lot of notes here, pardon me. You were trained
That's
by Sean Dunster, Phil Lafon, and Tanya Levine. How was that? How did you find those guys? to train
Well,
you?
that was my secondary training. So
Okay.
Mentalo was my first trainer for
Mental.
like the
Okay.
6, yeah. So the 6 months.
Right.
And then when the school closed down due to like a gym relocation and such, that's when I had met Vance pretty close to the tail end of that. And I went to the Northern Tour. And that was, I feel like, kind of like my test to see how I was going to do. And the vet
Right.
on that tour was the Mauler.
Right.
And I think I got a good report card. I mean, I'm still here, so obviously got a decent report card. And there was an opportunity to come out here, and I came out for a tour, and I went to the MPW training school. And I, at the time, really liked the environment more so than like I felt like there was more opportunity. There was more girls here in Manitoba. I mean, like to this day, there really hasn't been a lot of females that have come out of Manitoba. So yeah, I stayed there for goodness, I think I left in 2015, so like probably about 3 years I trained there. And um I mean, when Phil would come around, especially, it was awesome. It was just like a learning tree that you like can't help but want to be under that tree.
Hmm.
And he really didn't want to train a lot of people. Like he felt like he likes to have smaller intimate classes
Sure.
where he can really like watch what you're doing and pick it apart, and then teach like more intricate things, because he's very excited about wrestling. Like once he kind of gets going, he gets really on it. And yeah, it's unreal. Like I've had probably like a handful of like one-on-one training sessions with Phil LaFawn, because some people didn't come, which to me was just insane. So he's like, I don't really like doing one-on-one because I don't get to watch what you're doing and correct it. I just get to feel it. But it was a really cool time. And then we had a seminar with Les Thatcher there, and we were
Oh.
training with a guy he used to play for the Colts and BC Lions. His name was Nick Hanna. So
Mhm.
we had an NFL guy there that was training for a WWE tryout, and he was like an eye opener. Like it's just like you see the difference between like professional athletes and people that are just like trying to get through a workout.
Mhm.
Like unreal. Like he was able to, like, his vertical was like 6 foot something. Like it was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my
Wow.
life. And it was so easy. He's like, yeah, well, just do this. And everything just came naturally to him. But I think what, having him around for the few months that he was there, during that time, he was like constantly taking notes. Like he had a notebook all the time. And I remember we had asked him, I said, hey, like you're constantly always taking notes, like around like other guys, like you're not, the coach is off to the side talking to somebody else and you're kind of writing notes down. And he's like, you never know if that's going to be you. Like there could be a time where like I'm making that same mistake, and now I have something to keep reminding me, like, okay, like you're like, don't do this and don't do that, like this is why. And so it was a big like learning experience where like just because you're not being taught directly, and someone else is being taught, like you can still learn from somebody else's either critiques or whatever. You should always kind of keep your eyes and ears open, even if
Right.
you don't think it pertains to you. It probably will at some point.
Right. Right. Um, before wrestling, before all of it, you were a vocalist, a very accomplished vocalist as well. And you did some work with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. You
Hmm.
performed in Europe. Tell us a little bit about that. I found that really interesting because I mean, because from what I understand, from what I've read, in my research, please correct me if I'm wrong. Just like not being able to get into sports and things like that before you saw the wrestling posters and stuff, you kind of really honed in on your vocal skills and were able to perform at various different places. Tell us about that.
Um, well, I feel like I was one of those people that was like naturally gifted with an ear,
Hmm.
which usually means I can hear something and learn it, and I can harmonize pretty quickly. So I can
Hmm.
just someone else could be singing and I could come up with 1 to 2 harmonies on the fly.
Nice.
I was never one to read music. Again, my parents were, um, and it's not because they didn't want to, but again, like putting your kid in like every lesson you can, like it gets expensive,
Yeah.
especially when you don't know if your kid's actually going to stick it out and do it. But I'd always sing at people's weddings. Like I can't tell you how many times I sang "My Heart Will Go On" at people's weddings. Like
Oh,
I think 6 times. That was like the first big song I learned. And yeah, like the thing started coming like in junior high, that like we didn't have like music specifically. We had band, but there was no vocals. So I took drama,
Right.
and I had to try out for a choir that was known in the community. So I made that, and we did a lot of cool things. We went to camps. We had choreographers that would come in, and we do dances and stuff like that. And then when I got to high school, and this is what I tell people a lot about, like, you know, sometimes you think you're greater than you are, and it's always nice to be humbled. I mean, of course, it doesn't always feel good to be humbled the first time you get put in your place, but it really helped me grow into a better, more rounded, well-rounded person.
Everybody has to
I
be humbled once in their life.
I agree. Yeah. So I got to high school, and I had tried out for a group called Prodigy, which
Mhm.
was pretty renowned. And I was like, oh, I'm a shoe-in, because you know everybody tells you, hey, you're great, you're doing awesome, like your voice is amazing,
Right.
and that's all you hear, right? You don't hear any negative. So when I got there, I was like pretty confident, like going into this. I was like, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it. And like I didn't. And I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean I didn't make it? Like I'm like one of the best people. And then I got into choir, and Mr. Zallis, I still talk to him to this day. He's a huge influence in my life, and he's made a huge difference
Mhm.
in a lot of people's lives. He's like, again, he's a rough and tough guy, so a lot of people that I find take what he says the wrong way, but he definitely comes from a place of like wanting to help you grow into a better person
He's
and be
real.
more skilled. He's real. So when I got there, I remember we were doing like we were singing happy birthday or something like that to like figure out where we were in like our sections.
Mhm.
And like he pointed at like me, and I thought it wasn't me. So like everybody kind of parted, and then I was like, he's pointing me out. So he brings me up to the front, and he's like, sing this note. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I've never sang that in my life. And he's like, oh, you can do it. And so like he hit the note, and it was just air and like nothing coming out. And he's like, try it again, does it, air. And I'm like, can you play the scale, like the whole thing? So I thought maybe if I heard the whole thing, I could get it, don't get it. And he's like, well, maybe this isn't, for you right now. Maybe like there's other things. And I was like, oh, I can't not be able to do this. Like I felt so on the spot, and the bell was ringing, everyone's leaving. And then I don't know what happened, but he played the scale again. And then like this huge, like belting, like I'm a belter. So it just came out, and it was super loud. I had like zero control, but it was super loud, and it hit the note. He's like, oh, good, soprano one. And I was like, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, like he never really, not supposed that he didn't give me a compliment. He like, his compliment was like including me in projects. And it took a while to realize that. But we would do projects in and out of school. So we did things um, like opening for the universities, and we would do things like with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and he would hand pick people to do those things. And so like, I mean, he wrote something for the opening of the Pieces Justice Center at the University of Manitoba,
Okay.
and he used the Holocaust as a um like inspiration to write the piece.
Sure.
And it got a lot of really good reception. It was a very emotional piece, and it's hard for kids at that age to kind of understand. Like you hear the history, but it's really hard for people to kind of connect to like how that felt. And he was really good at putting that into music. So through the next 6 years of my life, both 3 years in high school as well as 3 years after, he had continued working on that project. It was called the I Believe Project.
Oh wow.
So I got to be in it from the start to like not so much the end. He did actually do more with it later on, but he wrote 12 pieces of music, full orchestral scores, vocals, 6-part harmonies, solos. He had a quartet of vocalists come in from Austria.
Wow.
It
Sounds
was
like the
like
Canadian Yanni.
yeah, it was incredible. We had Holocaust survivors at the show, sitting in the front rows, and we met with them. We had like talks and speeches. And so that project was a huge chunk of my life, and like learning a lot about, other people's experiences. And then we got to do like shows at the MTS Center, which is now the Canada Life Center in Manitoba.
Mhm.
And we were selected to be the live live soundtrack for the first Lord of the Rings
Sure.
movie.
Oh, wow.
So we got to sing the whole score from beginning of the movie to the finish of the credits. Well, entire like half the bowl of the MTS Center was full of people watching the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. I decided to wear heels when no one was going to see me, so that was a dumb decision on my part, but lesson learned there. And then we got to do like 2 Queen tribute shows as well.
Oh,
And so there was a group called Jeans and Classics that kind of hires local choirs and stuff like that to do these projects. And so they take a classic rock band and they pair it with a symphony to get younger crowds to come out to the symphony and the orchestras. Because again, it's like a lot of people from my generation and younger stop going because they don't really appreciate classical. So having, like an Eagles tribute or a Beatles tribute, and Queen is huge. So we did that, and like that was probably the most fun I've ever had on a stage when it comes to performing. And he actually turned it down, and we were so disappointed. Like we were like begging him to do it. And I remember it was like November 9th, he comes to our room and he's like, okay, we're going to do it. And the show was the 24th of November. And I'm like, that's not a lot of time to learn like 6 to 7 Queen like pieces.
yeah.
And so we were rehearsing Saturday, Sundays, like after schools, like almost as much as we can. And we didn't get to meet the band and the orchestra until like the day before the show.
Right.
And it was, again, just being in a professional setting, but unreal learning experience, like meeting like professional musicians, and you see how the union works with like all those things, and you start to see like what goes into all these things. So you have a bigger appreciation for how hard, like just the people that aren't even performing, like the people in the back that are setting up the stage, that are doing the lighting and everything, and it's so much work. But a really cool experience, and it was definitely my first love. It still is a love. And I luckily, later in life was able to get into a few bands. So I was in like 2 to 3 top 40s bands, or I did like a calypso band for a while.
Ooh.
Yeah, not normally my thing, but my best friend growing up was her family was from Trinidad. So I listened to a lot of soca music and stuff like that. And
cool.
So I do love the music, but I definitely, my vocals are not like, I don't have that sing-songy vocal. I'm definitely more Janis Joplin, I guess.
Right. Well, last night, completely off topic. I'm remembering this. Chance, last night, in the Savannah Marshall fight in London, a boxing match, the American girl that was fighting her in Manchester, she actually sang the national anthem herself. So she's standing there.
I've seen that.
Yeah, she's standing there fully like, tank top, shorts, gloves on, ready to knock. See the Vaseline glistening, but there she is singing the national anthem. I think that was the first time I've ever seen that ever, like the actual combatants performing the anthem. That was really cool.
It's happened a few times on like the low indie circuits, but not
not on any stage. Have you ever performed the national anthem at a show before?
No, like I think I've always expected people to kind of like ask me, but the thing was, I feel like once I got into wrestling, a lot of people really didn't know that I sang.
Okay. So as a character though, are you a heel or are you a face or are you undecided?
Like I guess I'm both, but I feel like with my size, like if I'm going into a new territory, it's much more convincing that I can take care of business.
Be kind of cool. Just an idea. Sing the national anthem and then hit the person with the chair.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've always wanted to actually sing my entrance, like my.
That's what I asked you. That sing your theme song.
Yeah, like my best friend. He's one of my best friends. He's we met in a band program, and he's a music producer now. So he's actually written my most recent ring entrance music, but there's no vocals to it yet. So I was thinking about working with him to like write a song that goes with it, or kind of maybe tweak it a little bit.
Do it.
And then I have a local band too that I can always get to play it if we ever do like a big show. I don't think I'd want to do it every single time. I would just want to save it for something where people are like not expecting it, and give them like an extra piece of something, where they're like, it's not even advertised that it's going to happen. But yeah, I think I'd like to do that. But I just, early in my career, when I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to sing the national anthem or whatever, I I never really put it out there for people, and I think that's why like I kind of expect people to like find out and then ask me, but it would be cool to do. Just hasn't come up yet.
Is there anywhere we can hear you sing on YouTube or some of these bands you've been in where people, our audience can listen to you sing?
I do post the odd video on my Instagram and Facebook. So
I
like
saw that.
yeah, so like I don't always like to do it because I feel like some people are like, well, she's a wrestler, why is she posting music videos?
Why not?
Yeah, I would feel like I think that's my brain, like that's like post more wrestling than you do music, but I get
I understand.
requests and stuff every so often. So people are like, why aren't you putting any music out there? We want to hear you. So I'll perform a little bit. I didn't get a lot of my band footage, and the band footage I had was like just the worst view, and it was right by the speaker. So unfortunately, it doesn't sound the greatest. But I am working with like my dad has more footage from that he got from a guy, so he's working at kind of piecing it apart so it's not the whole show. And hopefully I can release some of that in the future. And but for a time I still have the vocal cord injury, so I have what they call vocal nodules, so they're calluses on my vocal cords.
Right.
um Only as of recently have I been able to actually sing something and not lose my voice.
Okay. Okay.
And it just happened because I was in the band that I'm in presently. We kind of took we took a gig before the band was fully formed.
Sure.
So we were like rehearsing like 2, 3, 4 times a week leading up to the show, like getting closer to the show. And just because we wanted to be ready, we were timing our sets to make sure that we were going to get to the 60-minute sets, and having to add songs like, okay, we need another 3 minutes or whatever. And every time the band would kind of have a hiccup, I would stop singing and then I would sing it again. So I was like singing like every day and then rehearsing at home, and then I was wrestling more ever since COVID has ended. Like my schedule with wrestling has been a lot more aggressive than when I was in my last band.
Well, just looking at your schedule again, like I said, when I do my research, I do it. 2022 was your busiest year. I think you competed over 350 times that year alone.
Yeah, it was crazy. I had so much going on, like, and we had 2 matches a night sometimes. And so like my voice was like, I was screaming, and like, it's hard. It is almost impossible to wrestle with like, and not scream. Like I didn't realize that until I was trying not to scream. And it just ruined the show for me. Like it actually, like I could tell the crowd was like not engaged as much.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I need to save my voice. But then I told them, I said, honestly, if I can't sing right now anyways, and I'm gonna lose my voice, I might as well just, until we figure this out, I might as well just not sacrifice my performance in wrestling as well.
Right.
So I just started doing that. I was going to voice therapy, so it's gotten better. I don't know if I will ever get my full range back, but I still have like a pretty decent range now.
Awesome.
And I have exercises and things that I can do to warm up and to like massage my vocal cords a little bit more. But I'm smarter about like, if I tell my band, hey, like I have a lot of shows coming up this week, I don't think I should come to rehearsal.
Right.
Maybe work on the band arrangements, and then next time you have a rehearsal, like then I can come in and we can just do the songs.
Sure.
And as long as I don't suck that day, like we can run through it and it's quick, and I don't have to sing the song, 10 times
Right.
before we get it right. So yeah, I'll be posting, I think, a few more. I recorded a couple more songs yesterday before the show.
Sweet.
And I'm
These
just
original covers.
These are just covers. I like actually got asked to write some originals. I met with my band or my choir teacher a few months ago, and this is full circle, 17 years later. So I graduated high school 17 years ago, and it's 17 years later, and I met him up. I reached out to his son to get in touch with him because we had lost contact, and we went to a Tim Hortons, and he's like, "You look the exact same as you did in high school. Like I can see you from like outside the building." And we talked wrestling, but then we started talking about music again. And I was like, yeah, like I've been doing this. So I showed him a video of me like singing Chandelier from Sia. And he was like 30 seconds in, he's like, you're so much more like well, this was like where like probably the second time I've ever heard him give me like a straight up compliment.
Right.
And he's like, you're phenomenal. Like you should do originals. You should be a singer. And it was really cool to hear that from, because it means a lot coming from him. Because I mean, first off, he's done so much music. Like, that man's won so many awards. He's done a lot for people musically, and a lot of his students have either become music production people, or have done bands and have been quite successful. They become music teachers.
Mhm.
Or like me, didn't go into like music, but like it taught me to grow as a vocalist and start like working on skills and stuff like
Right.
that. And you can always get better. So, and then hopefully with this band, we're getting back together. So we'll hopefully have some gigs in the next little bit. I'm gonna actually try to like record them, because apparently I'm like, people, like, I have had people from like wrestling come see me perform in a band. And they're like, it's a complete like contrast. It's
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
you would never like, my fans are like, I didn't even know that you could do any of those things. And like, I look so different. I'm so happy and like um jumpy and dancey and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, and I'm not like that in the ring. Like, I'm
Fair
just
enough.
like,
Fair enough.
I punch you in the face and I just stay.
Absolutely. So that kind of leads me to the next question here. I saw you perform. I was privileged enough to get to see you perform live. That was the first time I saw you. I didn't know who you were at the time, to be fair. You were fighting one Rhea Von Slasher.
Yes. Yes.
This was at the Stampede reunion, or the Stampede tribute show.
Yeah.
So my question to you, and I've wanted to ask you, Rhea or Christine, and I've had the privilege of meeting all three of you at different times, but I
Mhm.
always forget to ask those two. So I'm going to ask you straight up, what is the Vaughn part of all your names? Is it something? Is it something different? Are you guys looking to form a faction, or
Uh,
what's the Vaughn?
so like,
Rhea Vaughn Slasher, yeah,
yeah, Rhea, I
how?
don't know, because I know Rhea at one point was Pyro
Right,
back in the day.
right.
Um, so I don't know where she got hers from. I so my name backstory. So I never picked my name.
Okay.
Yeah, I was given my name.
Well,
I
sometimes even
attempted to
better.
later on. Yeah, sometimes I later tried to change it. That didn't. I wasn't overly successful with changing it.
Okay,
Um, so again, like I said, I was asked to come do a show
sure.
where I wasn't formally trained, right? Which I don't agree with, by the way. Don't do that, people. Um, I mean, I like I said, I had an amateur background. I had watched wrestling long enough, and I was like, okay, like I feel like, again, if I didn't feel like it was my only foot in the door, I probably would have done things differently. But yeah, like the story goes, it's Wavell Star actually gave me my name, and he had seen two people either on social or on a newspaper, and he kind of merged their names
Okay.
to make Kat Von Heez. So he had like Kathy Cougar versus Kat Von Heez, but he didn't know who Kat Von Heez was going to be, right? Because there was not a lot of girls, especially back then. And so he's like, well, let's put this name on the poster and we can always, card subject to change kind of idea. And that's where, like, when I got to the show, he's like, hey, like, you don't have a name yet. Are you cool with Kat Von Heez? And I was like, sure, I don't have one. So like, let's just go with it. And yeah, I stuck with it for the next couple of shows. And when I did my first Northern tour, which was like, I guess my first technical match after like training,
Right.
I had tried to change it to Synergy Storm
Oh, okay.
because I wanted to kind of be this like evil, like alternate dimension type of like Storm from X-Men.
I got
So I was
it.
gonna have
That's
like,
what I was
right,
thinking. Yeah, I see
yeah,
it.
that's what I wanted to do. But then I did the tour of Synergy Storm. Tony could never say Synergy Storm. He kept calling me Surgery Storm.
Oh,
For the whole thing. His Italian accent like got the best of him there. And then I got back, CW was like very sold on the Kat Von Heez thing. So I actually had to go back to the same town 2 weeks later, and they called me Kat Von Heez. And that's where the fans were like, weren't you just here as soon as I was like, no, that was my twin sister. Yeah,
well
we don't
done.
get along. Yeah, the whole thing. And then I was kind of like, I really wanted to change it because I felt like I identified more. But like Vance really kind of said, well, there's a lot of storms. There's Tony Storm, there's like Lance Storm, and there's
Right.
not a lot of there's no Von Heezes, right? So your name will always kind of like stick out,
Right.
and there's like, Von Erie's and like
So
you said,
Vaughn.
Von Slashers and stuff. And Von Slasher faction was a thing as well. So I don't know why we pick it, but like when you think Vaughn, it's like, I am German as well.
Right.
And there's a lot of Vaughns in German history too. So it
Yeah,
does
yeah.
fit the German powerhouse gimmick.
Yeah.
Well, the Rhea
But
thing
yeah,
came from Rigger, like Perry, with
Mhm.
Rigger Von Slasher, Cremator Von Slasher, Rhea Von
Yeah.
Slasher.
Yeah.
There's Rhea, he added that to them, their faction. That's
Yeah.
how-
I
So
don't
the-
know why we pick it, but
So
we
there's
did.
so you guys had nothing to do with picking, and you guys all became Vaughns separately in your own
Yeah,
different
it
ways.
would be
Okay.
cool if we were all just one
Okay.
big faction across
I
Canada.
would
We like,
love to see that. I think I've given you a couple ideas, a chair shot after the national anthem and the reunion of the Vaughns.
yeah, that'd be great.
That would be awesome. Moving on though, let's talk about Wrestling Academy and
For
Jacques
sure.
Rougeau. This is the
Yes.
thing that you're currently kind of gearing up for.
Yeah.
Enlighten us. Tell us what's it about? What's it like? I know Casey Spinelli's in there as well, and a few of the girls that we've seen around, and some of the guys. But Cody Rhodes is involved in this in some way as well with the Nightmare Factory, and
Yes.
$10,000 is on the line for three lucky combat athletes here. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So like, I heard of it through one of the promoters that I work for from BEW. And I'd heard of the competition like from the year before, but it was like its first year.
Yeah.
So nobody really had a lot of information, but it was relatively successful. So it has a lot more steam coming in this year. But it's a really big opportunity for Canadians because as Canadians, we don't get the same exposure. It's harder for us to travel places. And it's hard to get work visas and stuff like that to go to bigger companies and stay in other countries, especially the United States where there is more opportunities to wrestle. So yeah, like we had to put in an auditioned video. So you film a promo, and you do like a highlight reel and you submit that in, and both Jacques Rougeau, QT Marshall, look at it, and then they kind of handpicked people from, they picked 10 women, and I think they picked 20, I think 22 or 32 men, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and then so you have the quarterfinals, you get put in a match, and it's such a weird thing. Like it's such an odd event to be a part of because it's like you go to a normal show and you go and you do your match, and like, wow, it was a good match. Like, congratulations, shake your hands, whatever, move on. But with this one, it's like you have this match, and then there's still that like moment after where like you don't know if you're going to be moving forward. There's actually consequences to like things that you've done in the ring. Like, did you get your character over? Did you get heat? Did you get over? Did you execute your moves? Like, do you have like the it factor? Like, do you have the charisma? Like, there's so many factors. And it's kind of like being like on a reality show, right? Where people get eliminated. So we have the quarterfinals. So you have your first match there, and you do the match, there's the commentary, they kind of give their opinion on like which way they want to do this, and then afterwards QT Marshall, or in my situation it was Raymond Rougeau, who was the judge for that one, comes up on this big screen, and he kind of gives you a quick synopsis of how the match went and what he thought, and then they pick who out of those people are moving to the next round, and then the other ones are eliminated. So it's just such a different and unique experience all around.
Kind of like Tough Enough meets American Idol, or in a
Basically,
way,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and basically you have to like really grab people's attention, and
Right.
it's a really cool venue, the Club Soda in Montreal, and like a lot of sponsors and stuff like that. There's 400 people. It's a sold out venue. So it's really cool. Like the atmosphere is really cool. You come off the stage, you go right into the ring. Yeah, it was a really cool experience, and like working with Jacques on this, and like a lot of the other guys like Jeremy Prophet and stuff. It's been like a really cool experience.
Right.
So now we have the semifinals. So both me and Bobby are moved on to the next round, and that's August 20th.
Yeah.
And so I am officially wrestling Relentless Riley Rose. So she is an up and comer.
Yeah.
She is very young. She's 17. I've had the pleasure of working her several times, including last night, throughout the years, or throughout the last year or so. And I mean, it's one of those things where like I consider her someone I really want to see succeed in this business.
I get it.
But I mean, but it's one of those things too. It's a competition. Like you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
be proven. Like I want to feel as a vet that like, okay, like I have it. Like, you know, I wanted people to see like I've had it this whole time. And
Yeah,
now, I mean, it's, you know, 11 and a half years into my career. So I just want to feel validated. So
absolutely.
I really am going into this with a competition mindset, but at the same
Mhm.
time, making my competition look good is the same as making myself look good. So
Awesome.
we
I
want
love
to,
that.
yeah. So I mean, you know, I've competed in strongman and there's a big belief system, and I want to beat somebody when they're at their best, to prove that I'm actually better in
Right,
that moment.
right.
There's no point in beating somebody when they aren't able to showcase what they can do,
Hmm.
and you're just taking advantage of a situation like that.
Hmm.
So I want to make sure that like she gets the opportunity to shine, but I'm going to make sure that I lay it all out there and people get to see like the variety of like flexibility, strength, speed, and agility that I'm capable of. So I'm going into there with a heavily competitive mindset,
Hmm.
like I've done with every sport.
Right.
But yeah, it's a cool experience. I don't know how it's gonna go. But I mean, like to win $10,000 and like the potential to train for 3 months at the Nightmare Factory with QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes, Billy Gunn. There's a lot of people that have come out of that school
Right.
and done some amazing things, and hopefully just open a door for myself and the Canadians in general. So it's a really cool competition to be a part of. It's really exciting. It's nerve wracking. It's emotional. Like when Bobby got like put through, I just remember like watching in the back and like I didn't think I was gonna get emotional, but I got emotional. Like I
Right.
just felt like so overcome with like, oh thank God. Like I feel like you know, I wanted him to get through so bad.
And we're talking about Bobby Sharp, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So just watching it and like it's, you know, and there's Sean Moore as well, who was his competition, and like they both got selected to move forward because their
That's
match was
awesome.
just like so good, and it was like such a technical wrestling match, like old school, and tell the story, and just like, you
And
know,
they've,
Sean, yeah,
sorry,
go
they've
ahead.
had time to work together. They've had matches together. So, I mean,
Actually,
having,
they haven't. They've
oh,
only
really?
wrestled like yeah, once or twice
Wow.
before. Yeah, I know. It's like I thought so too. And then when we actually look back at match records, there isn't a lot of interaction between them.
Interesting.
Yeah, we worked with
Considering
a
they're
lot of the
always,
same
always
companies.
on all the same shows and everything. Wow.
Yeah, there was just never a lot of interaction, but it was like, I mean, you know the person, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like I
But
consider
touching
Sean
is
Moore.
touching, right?
Yeah, like I consider Sean Moore a good friend of mine, and
Right.
I respect the man. He's very talented. His brother Alexander Prime, also someone who is and has always been like a phenomenal athlete.
Hmm.
So it was just like gut wrenching to just watch like these two guys who are very good at what they do, and you're
Only
like there's a
one.
chance one of them isn't going
Yeah.
through,
Right,
and
right.
you're just like obviously biased, and I love my husband and he's phenomenal. He's worked his ass off. He's so good. But then there's that part of you that like, you know, your husband makes it through and then your friend doesn't. And you're just like, oh my God, like it's just so gut wrenching.
Yeah, yeah, I
But, you
get
know,
it.
I'm so happy that both guys get to go through
Right.
and get to show, you know, QT Marshall what they're capable of in different settings.
Right. So going into a match, are you guys told the outcome, like who's going to go over and whatnot? And so you guys have to build the match according to that, or are you just given free reign
Yeah.
and then you decide on the fly?
No, so it's you do know before you go in there, who you like who's going over. And again, that has nothing to do with like the outcome of who moves on.
Hmm.
So and it's kind of just like they just kind of pick willy-nilly. There's I think a coin toss situation with that. And it's just a unique experience there. But um yeah, it's I think this just I when I was there, I was just watching people. You do things differently than you would do on any other show,
Sure.
right? There's a lot of riding on it, so you're really trying to up the ante, and you see people maybe do things they wouldn't normally do because there's a lot on the line. Like I said, it's a really important opportunity for a lot of people where this gets them noticed. There's a lot of publicity. There's a lot of people watching. and they want to see what you can do. And, you know, other shows you would go on and be like, oh, that was a good match. You know, a couple things, but like, I'm happy with it. But with that one, like the moment the match is done, like a lot of people were feeling like, did I do enough? Did I do that right? Like, oh, I screwed that up. And like, I feel, you know, you're picking it apart. And that's what a lot of athletes do in a lot of these situations. So being on this like kind of reality show, again, with a lot on the line, like $10,000 is a lot of money for a lot of people. Like that can buy you like a bunch of cool gear that can get you like to move somewhere else where you can go get training like at a Nightmare Factory, and like you can live there, make connections, and really start to grow your career. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity. So I'm honored that I was selected to be a part of it, and I'm super excited for the semifinals in August. And I'd be lying to say if I wasn't super nervous, and I'm sure Riley is feeling the exact same way. But again, like I'm going to go into that with a competitive mindset
You
of
have to.
laying everything I have on the line and putting it all out there so I can really see if what I have been doing can be appreciated and is seen as above average.
It's your time, Kat. It's your time.
Yes. That's what I told her that's what I told her in my promo. It's my time. I'll say it's her time when I'll let her know when it's her time.
She's 17. She has a long way to go.
She does.
I guarantee the way she wrestles today will be very different how she wrestles in 3 years from now.
Yeah, and she's such a hard worker. She's like, to me, it's not even the hard work. It's honestly the attitude for me. Like someone who has a really strong, like is a good person and a good human being. Like those are the people I want them to be successful. Like even if I never become successful and I never really got to that point, like I'm so happy when good things happen to good people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so often where you see great things happen to people that you just know aren't the greatest human beings, and you know, whatever, power to them. But like it's nice and refreshing when you see good, and if not great, things happen to people that deserve those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Agreed.
so
Agreed.
that's who I really like. She's young.
Yeah.
This competition also has like another girl who's 17.
Yeah.
Zandra Lee's also 17. She's like, she had her 8th match at the quarterfinals. And, you know, when she's luckily moving on due to someone stepping back.
Okay.
And so she gets another opportunity to grow. And I just told her, I said, you've got so much potential and you've got so much in front of you. Like, just because you're not ready after 8 matches, like, man, if I watched my 8th match back, I'm sure it was probably pretty fun.
It's like that in any kind of field that you're in,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look at us. I'm sure if you look at number 8 compared to 125, like, oh shit, what the fuck was that? Right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Kat, we know you fought last night. You came on the losing end, unfortunately. How are you feeling from that though?
Oh, you know what? It was a good match. I had a lot of fun. I mean, it was really about like we had our new lucha champion. She took that from Ava Lawless like the week before. So
right.
So I mean, it's different dynamic. Like we don't have a lot of female like luchadors here, right? It's a different style. So it's and then you got 5 girls. There's a lot of variables that can go into that. But all around, like the fans were really happy with the match. I wish we could have done maybe a little bit longer in there, because we got a "This is awesome" chant near the end of the match, which is, I mean, what we all like to hear when we're wrestling. We like to get those like "This is wrestling" or like something that really those heartfelt type of reactions you get from the crowd. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things. I mean, for me, like I'm obviously probably the furthest thing from a flyer in any capacity. Like, I mean, I have jumped off the top, but I'm definitely not a flyer. So when I get to work with luchadors, it's really cool because I'm very, very much a base. So we can do some really cool things together. So I'm really looking forward to wrestling her this coming weekend at MexiFest. So we're doing the 7th, 8th, 9th in Calgary. And so it's like 8.5 hours of wrestling this weekend.
Right on.
And so I get to work with her and hopefully get to work with like Scott A. There's like Elemental and Ricky Marvin. There's a whole bunch of guys from Mexico. There's Hetty, he's from France, also Mexican
Yeah.
wrestler.
Yeah.
There's just so many guys that you can learn from.
Right on.
And hopefully I get to do some mixed tags and stuff, which would be cool to really like learn a different side of wrestling that we don't get to do up here very often.
That's awesome. So Kat, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Mhm.
I would love to have you back on maybe after the competition, after the 20th.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
to find
Hopefully
out
I have
what's
some
going
good
on.
news.
I'm
Yeah.
sure,
I hope so.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be. We're supporting you. Is it possible for fans to vote on this, or is it all up to the judges right there and
It's
then?
all up to the judges. Basically, QT Marshall will be, I believe, the final decision once
Right.
the match is
Okay.
over. He's watching it remotely through a stream service, and
Sure.
so he comes on right after.
Okay.
So, but I mean, like we'll have the matches posted, I believe, 4 days after the competition
Okay.
on
Cool.
the Loot Academy Wrestling website,
Awesome.
and everybody can watch the show there.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah. Let us keep us posted, and we want to get that out there for everyone. So we'll
Yep.
make sure that we have that on all our socials and everything, so we can get the word out there. And
Perfect.
Kat, I want to say thank you so much for taking time on this long weekend to make the time to sit down with us and share your story. And I hope that people find something inspirational out of this. Your journey hasn't been easy, but you've persevered and you've overcome a lot of obstacles to sit here with us tonight. So that cannot go without mentioning. Any girls out there listening to the show, take this story, man, and make it your own. There is no excuses for anybody. We can all achieve what we want. We just have to work hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Kat. All right, guys. That's it. We're gonna wrap it up here. My name is Bobby Sampson, joined with Chance Michaels, and we have the beautiful, talented Kat Von Heez. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will connect soon. Samp&Chance and Kat out.